Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How many times have you started something, felt the fire of excitement, and then, just a few days later, found yourself running out of steam? How many goals have you set only to let doubt, fear, or those creeping negative feelings convince you to give up? Here's the truth. Success doesn't belong to the most talented or the smartest. It belongs to the consistent. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's not easy. In fact, it's uncomfortable, challenging, and often inconvenient. But it is absolutely necessary. Today, I want to talk to you about forcing yourself to stay consistent even when negative feelings try to pull you down. Because let's be honest, life is going to throw punches, and feelings of self-doubt, fear, and frustration are going to show up uninvited. But here's the key. Those feelings don't control you. You control them. Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? That's the question I need you to answer. Because here's the truth. Without a strong why, consistency becomes impossible. You see, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. One moment you're pumped, ready to conquer the world, and the next you're asking yourself why you even bothered starting. That's where your why steps in. Your why is the foundation, is the anchor that keeps you steady when everything else feels chaotic. That's what you've got to get clear on first. When you know your why, it gives meaning to the struggle. It transforms the grind into something purposeful. Let me be real with you. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. Days when that alarm clock rings and every bone in your body screams, "Stay in bed!" There will be moments when fear whispers in your ear, "You're not good enough." And there will be nights when the weight of failure feels so heavy that quitting seems like the only option. But in those moments, if you know why you started, you can dig deeper. Let me break it down for you. Your why has to be personal. It has to matter to you. It can't be for someone else. Not for applause, not for validation, and definitely not for appearances. It has to come from a place so deep that even when the world is screaming at you to give up, your why reminds you of the bigger picture. Maybe your why is to give your family a better life. Maybe it's to inspire others to be the person you needed when you were younger. Or maybe your why is simply to prove to yourself that you can do it. Whatever it is, it has to light a fire inside you. Here's the thing. Your why gives you power over your emotions. Too often we let our feelings drive the car. I don't feel like working out today. I'm not in the mood to work on that project. I'll do it tomorrow. But feelings are unreliable. They're like waves, rising and falling with no warning. When you lead with your why instead of your emotions, you take back control. Remind yourself that you're not here to be ruled by fleeting moods. You're here to build something greater than yourself. But knowing your why isn't enough. You have to keep it front and center. Write it down. Put it on your mirror, on your phone, on your desk, anywhere you can see it. Let it be a constant reminder of what's at stake. When you feel like quitting, ask yourself, what's the alternative? If you give up, what happens to the dream? What happens to the people who are counting on you, the future you've envisioned, the potential you've barely scratched the surface of? Let me tell you something. When your why is strong enough, it silences the excuses. It pushes you through the days when you'd rather not show up. It reminds you that consistency isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. It's about showing up because you made a promise to yourself, not because you feel like it, but because you know it's what needs to be done. It's like this. I decided long ago, think about this, every time you take a step toward your why, you're proving to yourself that you're capable. And that's where the magic happens. Consistency builds confidence. Confidence fuels momentum, and momentum, that's what transforms dreams into reality. So the next time you feel like giving up, stop and reconnect with your why. Picture it. Feel it. Let it remind you of the reason you started in the first place. Because when your why is clear, there's no mountain too high, no obstacle too tough, and no negative feeling strong enough to stop you. And that, my friends, is the power of starting with your why. Let's get real. Negative feelings are a part of life. Fear, doubt, frustration, sadness, they're all part of the human experience. But here's the problem. Too many of us let these feelings dictate our actions. We let fear convince us we're not ready. We let doubt whisper that we're not good enough. And we let frustration make us throw in the towel. If you want to build consistency, if you want to achieve your goals, you've got to learn to confront and challenge your feelings. And because here's the truth, feelings are not facts. They're temporary, and they do not define you. The first step in confronting your feelings is to acknowledge them. Too often we try to run from negative emotions. We numb them, distract ourselves, or pretend they don't exist. But ignoring your feelings doesn't make them go away, it gives them more power. When you bury negative emotions, they linger in the background, quietly sabotaging your efforts. Instead, call them out. Name them. Are you afraid? Are you frustrated? Are you overwhelmed? Whatever it is, admit it to yourself. Say it out loud if you have to, because once you identify the feeling, you can start to take control. But don't stop at acknowledgement. The next step is to challenge those feelings. Ask yourself, is this true? For example, if you feel like you're not good enough, where's the evidence for that? Is it really true, or is it just your mind playing tricks on you? Most of the time, negative feelings are based on irrational fears or past experiences that no longer serve you. They're not rooted in reality. They're rooted in your perception. And if you can change your perception, you can change how you respond. Here's an exercise. When a negative feeling shows up, take a moment to separate fact from emotion. Let's say you feel like you're failing. Instead of accepting that feeling as the truth, challenge it. Ask yourself, what have I done right today? What small progress have I made? Often you'll realize that your emotions are exaggerating the situation. And even if things aren't perfect, focusing on what you can do will shift your energy from defeat to action. Now, let's talk about the hard part. Acting despite your feelings. This is where most people get stuck. They wait to feel ready. They wait for motivation to kick in. But let me tell you something. If you wait to feel like doing the work, you'll never get anywhere. Consistency requires you to act even when you don't feel like it. It requires you to show up, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Think of it like going to the gym. You might not feel like working out, but once you're there and you start moving, your mood shifts. Action creates momentum. The same principle applies to any goal. When negative feelings try to hold you back, take one small step forward. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be big. Just take action. Because every time you push through the resistance, you're training your mind to overcome. You're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your emotions. But here's the kicker. Confronting and challenging your feelings isn't a one-time thing. It's a daily practice. Negative emotions don't just disappear because you dealt with them once. They'll keep showing up, testing you, trying to knock you off course. And every time they do, you have to choose to confront them again. You have to remind yourself that you're in control, not your feelings. Remember this. Feelings are like weather. They come and go, but they don't define the climate of your life. A stormy day doesn't mean you're living in a storm. When you learn to confront and challenge your feelings, you stop letting the temporary storms dictate your journey. You take back your power, you stay consistent, and you keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, your actions, not your emotions, are what determine your success. When it comes to achieving big goals, most people feel overwhelmed before they even begin. The vision of where they want to go seems so far away, so out of reach, that they start to believe it's impossible. And when the first obstacle shows up, or when progress feels slow, they quit. But here's what you need to understand. Success is not about massive overnight leaps. It's about the small, consistent steps you take every single day. Those small steps might feel insignificant in the moment, but over time, they compound into something extraordinary. Think about it like climbing a mountain. You don't teleport to the summit. You don't leap from the base to the peak in one giant jump. No, you climb step by step, one foot in front of the other. Some steps will feel easy. Others will be grueling. And sometimes you'll slip and fall. But as long as you keep moving, even if it's slow, you're getting closer to the top. That's how progress works. The problem is, we live in a world that glorifies instant results. We're bombarded with success stories of people who made it overnight. What those stories don't tell you is the years of effort, the countless small steps, and the relentless consistency it took for those individuals to get where they are. Nobody sees the late nights, the early mornings, and the days when showing up felt like the hardest thing in the world. But trust me, those small daily actions are what make the difference. You see, small steps are powerful because they're sustainable. Trying to take massive leaps all the time is exhausting. It's like sprinting a marathon. You'll burn out before you've even covered a fraction of the distance. But when you focus on small, manageable actions, you build momentum. You create habits that carry you forward. And as those habits strengthen, the steps get easier. The progress compounds, and suddenly you find yourself accomplishing things you once thought were impossible. You see, small steps are powerful because they're sustainable. Trying to take massive leaps all the time is exhausting. It's like sprinting a marathon. You'll burn out before you've even covered a fraction of the distance. But when you focus on small, manageable actions, you build momentum. You create habits that carry you forward. And as those habits strengthen, the steps get easier. The progress compounds. And suddenly you find yourself accomplishing things you once thought were impossible. But let me be clear. Taking small steps doesn't mean settling for small dreams. It means breaking those big dreams down into pieces you can handle. Let's say your goal is to write a book. Sitting down and thinking about writing 300 pages might feel overwhelming. But what if you focused on writing just one page a day? At that pace, in less than a year, you'd have a full manuscript. That's the power of small, consistent effort. The same principle applies to any area of your life. Want to get in shape? Start with a 10-minute workout. Want to save money? Put aside $5 a day. Want to build a business? Dedicate an hour each evening to your side hustle. These small actions might not seem like much at first, but over time, they add up to something remarkable. There's another reason small steps matter. They build confidence. Every time you take action, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that you can do it. You're building trust in your own ability to follow through. And as that trust grows, so does your willingness to take on bigger challenges. Small steps create a ripple effect. One leads to another, and before you know it, you're making leaps you never thought possible. Now, I'm not saying the journey will always be smooth. There will be days when progress feels slow, when you wonder if those small steps are even making a difference. But let me remind you of this. Progress isn't always visible in the moment. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the roots growing beneath the surface, but they're there, getting stronger, preparing to break through. Eventually, those roots will support something incredible, but only if you keep watering them. The key is to stay patient and trust the process. Don't let the size of your goal intimidate you. Don't let the slow pace discourage you. Focus on the step in front of you. Celebrate the small wins along the way, because those wins are proof that you're moving in the right direction. Remember this, the biggest transformations don't happen overnight. They happen through small, consistent actions repeated over time. Each step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. And when you stay committed to those steps, you'll look back one day and realize that the impossible wasn't so impossible after all. You didn't need to take one giant leap. You just needed to keep moving forward, one small step at a time. Motivation is a wonderful thing when it shows up. It feels like a surge of energy, a rush of excitement that makes you believe you can conquer the world. But here's the problem with motivation. It's unreliable. It's fleeting. One day it's there, and the next it's gone. You can't build a meaningful life or achieve lasting success if you're waiting around for motivation to strike. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the foundation. It's the thing that keeps you moving forward, even when you're tired, uninspired, or downright discouraged. The truth is, most people make the mistake of thinking they need to feel motivated before they can act. I'll go to the gym when I feel like it. I'll start that project when I'm in the right mood. I'll focus on my goals when I'm more inspired. And you know what happens? They wait, and nothing changes. Motivation is like a spark, but discipline is the fire. You don't need a spark every day to keep the fire burning. You just need to tend to it consistently. Discipline means doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. It's showing up for yourself even when it's inconvenient. It's pushing forward even when your mind is full of excuses. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's not exciting. In fact, it often feels like hard, unappreciated work. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. When you master discipline, you free yourself from the trap of emotional decision-making. It has been my experience that some people will rather do less than more. You stop relying on motivation and you start relying on habits and systems. Think about this. Some of the most successful people in the world don't feel motivated every day. They don't wake up every morning excited to tackle their to-do lists. But they don't let that stop them. They've trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel. They've learned that the secret to consistency lies in discipline, not motivation. So how do you build discipline? It starts with small, intentional choices. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Start by committing to one small habit, a habit so simple that it's almost impossible to fail. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water every morning. Maybe it's writing for 5 minutes a day. Whatever it is, make it non-negotiable. Follow through on that commitment no matter what. Because every time you honor your commitment, you're reinforcing the belief that you're capable of showing up for yourself. And here's the thing. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about never missing a day or always getting it right. It's about consistency over time. It's about getting back on track when you slip up. Discipline allows for mistakes, but it doesn't allow for quitting. When you miss a day or fall short, don't beat yourself up. Instead, remind yourself that discipline is a practice. It's something you do again and again until it becomes second nature. Another key to building discipline is removing the decision-making process. When something is optional, it's easy to talk yourself out of it. But when you make it a rule, when you decide in advance that this is just what you do, it becomes easier to follow through. For example, if you decide that you're going to work out every morning at 7 a.m., there's no room for debate. You're not waiting to see how you feel. You're simply following the plan. But let's not sugarcoat this. Discipline is hard. It requires sacrifice. It requires you to choose long-term gain over short-term comfort. It means saying no to distractions, excuses, and temptations. It means staying committed to your goals, even when nobody's watching, even when progress feels slow, even when it would be so much easier to give up. Discipline isn't about feeling good in the moment. It's about building a life you can be proud of. And here's the beauty of it. The more disciplined you become, the less you'll need to rely on motivation. Discipline creates structure. It creates momentum. And as you start to see results, no matter how small, they'll fuel your confidence and your drive. The effort you put in will start to feel worth it. And you'll realize that motivation was never the key. Discipline is what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's what turns intentions into actions and actions into achievements. So the next time you find yourself waiting for motivation, stop. Instead, choose discipline. Choose to show up, to do the work, to stay consistent, because that's where real growth happens. Failure and resistance are two things most people dread. We're taught to fear them, to avoid them, and to see them as signs that we're on the wrong path. But here's the truth. Failure and resistance are not the enemies of success. They are part of the process. In fact, they are some of the greatest teachers you'll ever have. The problem isn't that failure or resistance exist. The problem is how we choose to see them. If you can learn to reframe them, you'll transform obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones. Let's start with failure. Somewhere along the way, many of us came to believe that failure is the opposite of success. But that's not true. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the pathway to it. Think about it. Nobody achieves anything significant without failing along the way. Every successful person you admire has stumbled, fallen, and faced setbacks. The difference is that they didn't stop there. They used failure as a tool to learn, grow, and get better. Failure is simply feedback. It's a way of the world saying, not this way, try again. Instead of seeing it as an end, view it as a beginning, a chance to adjust your approach. When you fail, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? The people who succeed are not the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who embrace it, analyze it, and keep going. They understand that every failure brings them closer to their goal because each one teaches them something they didn't know before. And then there's resistance. Resistance shows up in many forms: fear, procrastination, self-doubt, distractions, and even external obstacles. Most people see resistance as a sign that they should stop. They think, this is too hard. Maybe it's not meant for me. But resistance is not a stop sign. It's a sign that you're growing. Resistance is proof that you're pushing beyond your comfort zone. And that's where real progress happens. Think of resistance like weight training. When you lift weights, you're literally working against resistance. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. Your muscles burn, and you might feel like giving up. But that's exactly what makes you stronger. The same is true for your mind and your goals. Resistance challenges you to stretch, to adapt, and to become better than you were before. When you reframe resistance, it stops being something to fear and starts being something to embrace. Instead of thinking, why is this so hard? Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? When you face resistance, it's an opportunity to prove to yourself that you're stronger than the challenge. It's a chance to develop resilience, patience, and perseverance, all of which are essential for long-term success. Reframing failure and resistance also means letting go of the idea that progress should be easy or linear. Too many people quit because they expect the journey to be smooth. They think success is a straight line from point A to point B. But in reality, it's full of twists, turns, detours, and dead ends. Every setback is just part of the process. If you expect challenges, you won't be blindsided by them. And if you embrace them, you'll find ways to overcome them. One powerful way to reframe failure and resistance is to see them as tests. Every time you encounter a challenge, it's life asking you, how badly do you want this? Are you willing to push through the discomfort? Are you willing to try again? If you answer yes, if you keep going despite the setbacks, you're proving to yourself and the world that you're serious about your goals. Another way to shift your perspective is to focus on the bigger picture. In the moment, failure and resistance can feel overwhelming. But when you zoom out, you'll see that they're just small bumps on a much larger journey. They don't define you. They shape you. They make you stronger, wiser, and more capable. Remember, the most valuable lessons in life often come from the hardest experiences. Failure teaches you what doesn't work so you can figure out what does. Resistance builds the mental and emotional muscles you need to keep going when things get tough. Together, they prepare you for success. So the next time you encounter failure or resistance, don't let it stop you. Reframe it. See it as a sign that you're on the right path. Because if you weren't making progress, you wouldn't be facing challenges in the first place. Embrace the struggle, learn from it, and keep moving forward. Every time you push through failure and resistance, you're one step closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. The mind is a powerful tool, and where you focus it determines how far you'll go. One of the biggest reasons people give up on their goals is because they fixate on the struggle, the obstacles, the discomfort, the sacrifices required. They spend so much mental energy dreading the hard parts that they drain their own motivation before they even begin. But if you shift your focus and train your mind to visualize the reward instead of the struggle, you'll find the strength to keep going, no matter how tough the journey gets. Here's the thing, what you focus on expands. If you keep thinking about how tired you'll feel waking up early, how hard that workout will be, or how frustrating it is to write that report, those thoughts will weigh you down. The struggle will seem bigger than it really is. And you'll start to believe that it's not worth the effort. But when you flip the script and visualize the reward, what you'll gain, how you'll feel, and the life you're working toward, it gives you a reason to push through the discomfort. It reminds you why you started in the first place. Think about someone training for a marathon. If all they focus on is how painful their legs feel during practice runs, or how tired they are waking up early to train, they'll start to resent the process. But if they visualize crossing the finish line, feeling the rush of accomplishment, and knowing they achieved something they once thought impossible, that vision fuels them. It makes the hard work worthwhile. The pain of the moment pales in comparison to the joy of the reward. The same principle applies to any goal. Let's say you're working to build a business. If you only think about the long hours, the missed social events, and the uncertainty, it's easy to get discouraged. But when you focus on the freedom, the financial security, or the legacy you're creating, it shifts your perspective. The late nights don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They feel like investments in your future. Visualization is more than just daydreaming. It's a deliberate practice of focusing your mind on what success will feel like. Close your eyes and imagine yourself achieving your goal. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What will your life be like when you get there? The more vividly you can picture it, the more real it becomes in your mind. And when you believe in that vision, you're far more likely to take the actions needed to make it a reality. But visualization isn't just about the destination. It's about the journey too. Picture yourself handling challenges with confidence, overcoming obstacles, and staying committed no matter what. When you see yourself succeeding, even during the tough moments, it rewires your brain to believe that struggle is temporary, but the reward is permanent. There's also a psychological benefit to focusing on the reward. It triggers positive emotions. Thinking about your goal, achieving that promotion, buying your dream home, or improving your health releases feelings of excitement, hope, and joy. These emotions counteract the fear, doubt, and frustration that often come with pursuing something difficult. They create a sense of purpose that keeps you grounded, even when the road gets rocky. Here's an important point. Focusing on the reward doesn't mean ignoring the hard work. It means choosing to see the bigger picture. It's about understanding that the struggle is part of the process, but it's not the whole story. The pain of waking up early, hitting the gym, or grinding away at your goals is temporary. The reward, better health, personal growth, financial freedom, lasts far longer. When you focus on the reward, you also tap into your why. Every goal has a deeper reason behind it. Maybe you're working to build a better life for your family, prove to yourself that you're capable, or create something meaningful that outlasts you. Whatever your reason, keep it front and center. Let it drive you. When the struggle feels overwhelming, remind yourself of the bigger purpose you're working toward. Remember this, the journey will challenge you. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up, when the obstacles seem too big, and when you question whether it's all worth it. In those moments, visualization is your anchor. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and picture the life you're creating. See yourself enjoying the fruits of your labor, feeling proud of the person you've become, and knowing that every step was worth it. Focusing on the reward doesn't just keep you motivated, it strengthens your resilience. It reminds you that the struggle is temporary, but the sense of accomplishment will last a lifetime. So, whenever you're tempted to give up, shift your focus. Stop staring at the mountain in front of you and start envisioning the view from the top. The reward is waiting for you, and it's worth every step of the climb.